But here's the problem when it comes to fat loss. Your body is going to prefer to burn glycogen first. Why? Good morning and welcome back to the channel. I am going to do a 72-hour fast. I regularly do 18 to 20-hour fasts, and it generally works very well because I don't eat breakfast. I just don't feel like eating breakfast. Very often I don't eat lunch because I'm either too busy or I'm out or I just don't feel like it. So this morning, for example, it's 8 o'clock right now, but I'm already up at 18, nearly 19 hours on my fast now since yesterday. So it's actually relatively easy to do over 20 hours for me. I've done various longer fasts. I've done a 50-hour or 54-hour fast before now, but I've never done any longer than that. I've never done 72. I've never done sort of 100 hours. So I'm really curious as to what that's going to be like. Most people might think it's really difficult to do fasts and you're going to get really hungry, but that actually becomes so much easier the more that you do it. The more that you fast, it gets easier. So when you regularly do 18-hour fasts and 20-hour fasts, as I just said, it gets relatively easy. As I said, I'm up at 19 hours at the moment, and this is just at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I think it ultimately should be relatively straightforward. As to why I'm doing this fast, well, I keep getting kind of stomach cramps and stomach pains, and I feel bloated because I'm sitting around working so much. I haven't had as much time to exercise. Through the pandemic, being stuck at home, I had less exercise than I would normally because, ironically, I was working more than I was normally. So sitting around and working with less exercise and still eating and kind of being really busy and still eating as much as I probably would normally, obviously the calories in were much more than the calories burnt. So if you're in a calorie surplus, you're going to gain weight. Whatever the situation is, if you're in a calorie surplus, you're going to gain weight. The only way of losing weight is to be in a calorie deficit. There's a lot more to it than that, and I'll explain more throughout this video. But I'm going to check in at various points. For me, that's going to be hours. For you, it's going to be seconds. Let's get started. Now, over the years, many people have asked me how to lose weight. What exercise is the best to lose weight? And what is the best to lose it from your stomach or from your thighs or from your arms and so on? Now, the truth of the matter is this. There is not one exercise for one part of the body that is going to spot burn or spot lose fat from your body. It's just not going to happen. It's not true. Anyone that says so is just peddling some kind of nonsense because the body is going to act as a whole unit. It's not going to spot burn and remove fat from just one place. It's going to burn fat throughout the body depending on your body's state and what fuels your body is burning at that time. Allow me to explain. So this is really coming back to the heart of this channel here, Black Belt Secrets, when I started with martial arts, fitness and health. And so whilst I don't profess to be a doctor, and this cannot replace medical advice, and I'm not a qualified nutritionist and so on and so forth, I have been to a great deal of medical seminars and I've spent a great deal of time studying how the body works, how the body burns energy and which fuels go in and how your body creates that energy and ultimately burns fat. Or doesn't, as the case might be. So the simple fact of the matter is this: your body is only going to burn one of two types of energy. So body fuel really comes from two sources. Glycogen, which is produced through a process called glycogenesis, which is the body turning sugar or carbohydrates into glycogen, which it stores, and you use that and you burn that as energy, or your body can burn fat. But here's the problem when it comes to fat loss. Your body is going to prefer to burn glycogen first. Why? Well, there's a number of reasons, but without getting too bogged down into the science of it, your body prefers to store fat. Ultimately, because fat gives more ATP per molecule than glycogen, and it takes less space, it's less heavy, and so on. So your body is going to burn glycogen first. And the problem with this is as follows. When the glycogen is burnt up, your blood sugars go down and you feel hungry. So you feel like you need to eat to replace the fuel that you've just lost because your blood sugar's just gone down. Now, here's the perpetual problem. When you go to eat something, just like what I'll flash up on screen here, these are designed to be some kind of calorie watching product that presumably people are going to buy if they want to lose weight by controlling their calories, calories in, calories out, which is strictly true. But the reason you're going to lose body fat overall is not just by counting the calories, and it's not just by restricting what you eat. It is overall a calorie deficit. And as for why that calorie deficit works, I'll explain after this next check-in. It's now just coming up on 8:30 in the evening. I'm just up over 30 hours now. I was hoping to catch up with you around about the 24-hour mark, but I missed it. I was too busy, I was working and so on. Very warm evening here still. How I'm feeling at the moment is perfectly fine. I actually had a chat with our Al Robertshaw earlier, just after the live stream, and said I didn't really feel like I need to eat. I could take it or leave it. And so this just goes to show that once you've been doing intermittent fasting for some time, sort of 18 or 20 hours on a regular basis, and I'll explain more about that in a moment, when you've been doing that for some time, you can get to a certain point where you just take it or leave it, whether you eat or not after that period of time. And actually 24 hours and then 30 hours doesn't really seem like that much. So the way I get to that point is the 18 hours or so. If you eat relatively early and then you skip breakfast, then you can get up to lunchtime or round about lunchtime and get your 18 hours relatively easily. If you then eat fairly late or you skip lunch altogether, then sure enough, if you're going for the one meal a day, you pretty much coming close to 20 hours every single day. And so we do this as a routine, really, not even intentionally. It's just a routine. And anything that becomes a routine just becomes easier. So we do 18 or 20 hours on a regular basis because we don't do breakfast, we don't always do lunch, and when we do dinner or supper, we can do that at any sort of time, really between 4 o'clock and 7 or 8 o'clock if it's on the later side. But usually that'll be on the earlier side, and that makes for a very easy 20 or even 20 plus hours between meals. You can see from my few fasts, I don't track all the time and I don't track every single thing, but you can see from my few here that I've tracked just recently, they are very regularly over the 18-hour mark. So we've got one of them that I tracked is 47 hours, 21 hours, 23 hours. Then we had a couple of social engagements, so it's only 16 hours and 19 hours, but then back to 25 hours, and the current fast I'm doing, I'm just over 31 hours. So actually this is relatively straightforward for me. So at the moment, just checking in, I'm 31 hours, 21 minutes. I'm feeling fine and I don't feel like I need to eat. I feel like I can take it or leave it. So actually what I'm going to do, I've set a loose goal to go for 36 hours, which of course is going to end at 1 in the morning. So I should certainly hope I'll be in bed and at 1 in the morning. So that's obviously going to stretch for at least another 5 hours or so, assuming that I'm up around 6. So that is certainly going to be going up at around the 40 hours or so. And I won't do breakfast because I don't do breakfast, so I will not usually be doing breakfast. So I'll clearly go beyond breakfast, and then I can choose at lunchtime whether I eat or not. So this again just goes to show that if you skip a meal very quickly, you can ramp up those hours. And the key with intermittent fasting is the more that you do, the easier it becomes. The mistake that I've seen a lot of people make is they go from not really doing much at all, i.e. they eat breakfast, lunch and dinner 3 times a day every day, then they try to skip all of them. Now, when people jump to a more ambitious goal straight away, that's more difficult. You really do have to build this up. So that's me checking in at 31 hours. I'll see you on the next check-in. So when your body is in a state of calorie deficit, i.e. you are burning up more calories than you are taking in, And by the way, everybody's burning calories all the time, whether you're exercising or not. Even going for a walk, it has been proven going for long walks is just as effective over time as it is going for a run, as it is going cycling, and so on. It is just movement added to your everyday resting metabolic rate, burning up calories whilst you are sitting here doing, well, nothing. Well, you're never doing nothing. Your body is always doing something, even if you are not. So the reason the calorie deficit works is that your body's going to burn up gradually all of the glycogen available and then look for other fuels, and it's going to look to the fat. Because once the body is out of resources on a regular basis, i.e. you're in a consistent calorie deficit state, like intermittent fasting, your body is then going to look to the stored fuel, i.e. your body fat, and burn that instead. One way you can test whether you are in a fat burning state is to get these keto sticks or ketone sticks, which basically you pee on and it will detect ketones in your urine, because as you burn fat, your body will produce ketones. They are a byproduct of burning body fat. Not to be confused with ketoacidosis, which is the bad kind of having too many ketones in your blood, which is linked to diabetes, of course. But that's not what we're talking about here. Ketones in the urine when you are burning fat is perfectly normal, is perfectly safe. Now back for the next check-in. Now it's the following morning. It's now 42 hours I've been fasting. I still feel fine. If I'm honest, this time around I feel very slightly lightheaded. I don't normally feel lightheaded after 40 hours or so, but this time I think probably because of the heat outside, and we've been doing lots of different activities and work and things like that, I do feel very, very slightly lightheaded, but still fine. It's not like I feel ill or starving or anything. The main thing is I don't really feel hungry. And so those of you that are thinking that you will feel absolutely starving when you go over sort of 30 hours or so, that's not the case when you've been building it up over time. So right now I'm fine. I'm not going to eat breakfast because I actually don't feel like eating breakfast anyway. It's 7:30 now on a Saturday, so I'm just going to sit down and do some videos. So I'm going to wait till this evening and I'll probably eat then. But we'll see how we go, I suppose. I'll see how I feel then, and I'll check in then. So this is why I absolutely support and I champion intermittent fasting if you want to maintain a lean body structure or you want to burn body fat. Remember, spot exercises like 100 sit-ups every morning. All it's going to do is give you a sore back, a sore stomach, possibly injure something, and you're not going to spot burn the fat on your stomach. It's simply not going to work. The only way you're going to do it is by being in a consistent calorie deficit on an ongoing basis so that your body gets used to the switch back and forth between glycogen for energy and fat for energy. But it needs to be able to switch between the two quite readily. And it's only going to really do that with practice if you do it consistently and on an ongoing basis. That is also why, incidentally, when you are in a calorie deficit and you are intermittent fasting for lengthy periods of time regularly, the longer times just seem easier to cope with. So you can start with just skipping breakfast, and that will quite easily take you up to 14 or 16 hours typically from your last meal. And then if you eat a bit earlier in the day and you still skip breakfast and your lunch is slightly later, then you work your way up to 18 and 20 hours. And if you do that consistently, then 18 and 20 hours becomes normal. Very quickly, you start to get into this fat burning state very easily, switching between one and the other. What most people do, however, is they have a big, hearty, sugary breakfast, which boosts their blood sugar in the morning, prevents them from or halts the fat burning process because your body will switch back to burning sugar. And then that's just going to leave you feeling hungry by midday, at which point you look for more food, and you're typically going to look for something sugary, such as the bars that I just showed you, which boast a low calorie per bar but still have 1 or 2 teaspoons of sugar in them. So if you absolutely can, I would really recommend, now this is not a sponsored video, but I would really recommend checking out one of these apps like Zero. I use the free version, and it does everything I need it to do. But if you really want to get into the education of it, as I did, not through Zero, I did it through medical seminars and such things that I went to learn about all of this stuff. Zero does provide this education, and many of these apps provide this education, but Zero is the one that I like. It's the one that I use. We've used it for years. As I said, not a sponsored video, but sponsorships welcome. On this occasion, I've got to 47 hours and I just feel like I need to eat. So despite wanting to go for a much longer period of time, I think today I'm going to cut it short and get back to some more work, because I think this is all a balance. I think it depends on what reserves you have in the system, and I don't really have a great deal of body fat to burn. So I think when my body is trying to burn additional body fat and there's no fuel to replace it, clearly I'll be in a fat burning stage at the moment because of the number of hours and the previous few days leading up being at least 20-hour fasts. I think it really does get to a point where you have to be sensible, you have to balance, and I think when I start to feel very slightly lightheaded, I'm just going to cut it a little bit short than I would have liked. So there we are, 47 hours and coming up to 30 minutes on this fast. That's it for this one. I will report back on any more fasts that I do if you are interested in this. And finally, and before I let you go, I hope you like the white t-shirt. I had to dig right back to the back of the wardrobe to find another white t-shirt because some chap sent a lovely email telling me how nice my white t-shirts were. So thank you very much for that. And of course, thank you for watching.